What's up, bikers? Episode 208 of the Biker Bar podcast. And it's been a while. I just actually came to that realization about 2 seconds ago that I haven't done a show since last year. So, Happy New Year to those of you that have not hit unsubscribe or are still following on the podcast. I appreciate that. I appreciate the support through 2024 and into 2025. So, before we get started with today's guest, the Outsider MTB, I've had Tony on the show a couple of times over the length of the podcast, and I was looking at it. It was like 2023 was the last time we chatted, so it'll be a fun conversation. Anyways, let me talk real quick about some of the show sponsors. Those of you guys know that I've been riding RE bikes for the last year, and I want to mention something other than their bikes. Sorry, I had one of those like hiccups coming out of nowhere. So they have a love it or return it policy, and I think that this thing is actually pretty sick compared to what you get out of a bike shop, or I don't even know if all the other online retailers do it, but basically you can buy the bike, ride it on your own trails for up to 30 days, and if you don't like it, you can send it back. And to me, that I think is really sick, because sometimes you go out and you ride a really fun bike in a really fun environment. Let's say you go to Santa Cruz and you rent a Santa Cruz and you go out and you ride the trails around there, and they're super sick, and you have a good time because you've never been on that trail before. But then you take that bike back home and it doesn't feel the same way because the trails are different. So here you go. Love it or return it. Anyways, thinking about picking up a new bike, swing by re.com or rebikes.com and take a look, see what they got. It can't hurt. Aside from that, I have been wearing Tasco clothes for a long time before they were sponsoring the channel, and their new mullet jerseys are super fun. Basically, it's one color on one side and another color on the other side. So it's like you get two jerseys almost for the same price as one. I think it's $10 more for the mullet. This black one, it's like black on one side and then black and white checkerboard on the other side. It's pretty sick. I've been talking about buying it. I still haven't pulled the trigger. One of these days soon, I'm going to do it, though, because my black jersey that I have has been getting all screwed up from trail building. So swing by tascostoke.com and use code B1KER. Save yourself a little money and help support the channel. Also, for a long time, been riding Cali's helmets pretty much almost since I started the biker channel, and their Invader 2.0 is the lightweight full face helmet. I call this, like, it's still got a chin bar that's rated for DH, but it'll keep your teeth from getting knocked out because the holes, the ventilation holes are so big, it couldn't get a DH rating. For me personally, this is what I wear when I'm riding DH, like, and I want a full face, just because it's so light and I don't really care about the holes being a little bit bigger. That's my personal preference. If you want the downhill version, they have one of those too, a little tighter holes, so less ventilation, same helmet basically. Anyways, use code B1Cali30, save 30%, and once again, help support the channel. Real quick, I don't usually mention these other companies, but I've been working on a video lately, and well, actually, there's a few things. There's an e-mountain bike fundraiser that I'm doing with the D2R nonprofit, which is basically trying to help get veterans out to do things. His nonprofit has all kinds of activities, whether it's like snowshoeing or mountain biking. One of them is mountain biking, and we're trying to raise money to purchase some e-mountain bikes to help get these people that haven't been on bikes before to go out and ride. And sometimes we're like, right now we're just borrowing them for people. We had a guy out on one of the rides that was missing, or he was a partial amputee. So because of that, like, the e-bike really helps. And like last week or the last ride we had, somebody borrowed one of mine because they just have never been mountain biking before. And maybe, that bike fitness is a little different. Anyways, so if you're thinking about that and you want to, like, help me out or help this channel out, honestly, right now, I'd really love to see people donate to this fundraiser, and let's see if we could actually get to the point to purchase some e-bikes for his nonprofit. Anyways, aside from that, I've been riding Spoke X wheels for the last couple of years, I think 2 years now, and I can't tell you how impressed I've been with them. I've broken almost every carbon wheel I've had except for these Spoke X ones, and I pair them up with the Project 321 hubs. They have a new G3 model out. If you're thinking about building a new wheel set, check it out. Honestly, the SpokeX rims are pretty cheap. They have a great warranty. And for me, they've been bomb proof. So I've been really surprised by that. Enough of this stuff. Let's just talk about bikes with Tony. What's up, man?
What's up? How you doing, Robert?
Not bad, dude. Just you know how it goes. You're just trucking through the day, right?
That's it. Yeah. This is your first podcast for the new year. I'm the first one, huh?
Yeah, man. Isn't that crazy? I sometimes, this is what happens. It is more work getting people on this show than it seems like. You know what I mean? So it's like it feels like it's like super simple, right? It's like, oh yeah, just send them an email and then that's it. But what happens is like somebody's like, oh, I'd love to do the show. Oh, wait, I have this product that's coming out in like a month. Can you email me then? And then you email them then, and they're like, oh, yeah. And so you do a lot of like playing that way, right?
It's a constant floating calendar where you're moving things around.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons that I don't say what shows are next week, because sometimes I don't know. And then on the other hand, I don't want to like make a brand look bad because it's like, oh yeah, by the way, brand X didn't show up today because they picked their kids up from soccer or something. You know what I mean? So there's that aspect of it. And then there's the other aspect of like, you just have to run around and chase things down, right? And sometimes you just get fed up with it or you get lazy. And that's probably me, more like lazy and procrastinating. And I think I didn't have anything set up for after the new year. I had like a couple of weeks that I was like, I'm just not doing a podcast. Fuck it. I'm not a podcaster anymore. And then after the new year, I was like, man, I need to like send out some emails, and I just couldn't get myself to do it. So finally I was like, my go-to is when I'm being super lazy is start reaching out to other creators, because usually we're all pretty flexible. Yeah. And you were the first one that came in mind, man.
That's cool. Yeah. I think I was pretty easy. Like I was like thumbs up and then here I am.
Yeah. So, yeah. No, you were totally. Yeah. You made it
feel
simple.
Like I kind of know what that's like in the background too, especially like from the YouTube perspective. You have things lined up and then things get thrown off. And then that, if you're the one creating that, hosting it, it throws you off and you have to start from scratch again. So yeah, it's more like the behind the scenes stuff. I feel like as content creators, we kind of get it. So I try to stay on that mode with you, or if I'm scheduled, like, let's make it happen,
No, and the worst part of it though is like, as soon as you said yes so easy, I was like, see, I can just wait another week and not send any more emails.
There you go.
It took everything inside of me just to keep sending emails though, and I did it though. I'm so proud of myself. But now
so you have some more lined up after this. You don't have to mention them, but you have some stuff going on.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So usually what I'll do is like I'll end up having like a month or a month and a half of like backlog kind of like booked out. And then what happens is like, I'm like not paying attention to it when I'm starting to get close to the end of like whenever I have them booked,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit, I don't have anybody next week. And then I get back into like procrastination mode, which is not.
Yeah. I've been there. I don't know. I haven't talked to you in a minute, but I mentioned right when I first came in here, I was like, you asked me how I was. And I'm like, I'm glad to be done with 2024. Just was like I feel like I'm not alone in this. There's a lot of people I know for some reason last year, people just got thrown off. I don't know why. It's like one of those years. How was last year for you?
There were some zingers that came in for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's definitely been some like off camera life stuff that came up that was definitely not what I was like mentally prepared for. But otherwise, I feel like it was pretty like, I don't know, man. I'm such an optimist that I never remember shit. You know, as I'm sitting here saying it out loud, I'm like, oh, wait, I did hurt my neck. I was off the bike for like a month. And then I'm like, oh, what else did I do? So
yeah. I mean, those are kind of like, that's kind of mountain biking, right? Like you kind of learn to like deal with that. And that's just like part of the program. I think last year, for me, I was like having a normal year. And then I had this health scare, which to be honest with you, I made a video about it. I wish I didn't. Because it was like my wife told me, she's like, because it was a pretty traumatizing thing for me. But when I made the video, I hadn't really dealt with it yet. And I hadn't really thought about it. I was just like, let's keep life going on. And then I made the video, and that's when like the anxiety about the health scare opened up, because dude, when you make a video about health or anything specific like that about your life, everyone's a doctor. Everyone's diagnosing you. Everything, you're going to have a heart attack. you got cancer. Like everything in the world is diagnosing you, and I get it. People are just trying to be helpful, like they're not like trying to troll me, but like reading all the comments and then dealing with all that, it was a weird situation. Like I had a health scare. I was, without getting too much in the weeds, like I had a health scare where like I passed out at my house because my heart was like going crazy. So I thought I had a heart attack. I had to wear a heart monitor for a few weeks. It turns out I had
like an AFib kind of thing.
It kind of, it's not that specifically, but it's similar. It's like a arrhythmia that goes really fast. It's just like one of those impulses that happens randomly when when you have it. But I'm on a medication. It's never happened again. But like those few months after it, when I didn't know what was wrong with me, I started like just thinking about life differently. Like your mortality comes more because we're getting older. It's just, I don't mean to get dark on it, but just like, it was like one of those years where like it didn't match all the others. Like I was faced with more real reality than I ever had growing up. Like I grew up like action sports guy, skater, turned mountain biker, like positive energy, and I'm immortal, like I can take a hit. And then all of a sudden, like the reality of like, dude, like it's not really up to you. You could take a hit, but like your body's going to do what your body's going to do. Like you don't have control over a lot of this crap. So I think the reality of that was like, I feel like I lost a little control, or mentally was like, holy crap, that could happen anytime. Like it just kind of took hold of me for a while. And then like, I had to get through that patch for like a few months and then slowly crawl out of it. I don't know if it was like a depression, but it was definitely like a full-on anxiety. Like I deal with anxiety, but this was like an intense one for a few months where I never dealt with that before. So last year, as cliche as the saying is, like, whatever doesn't kill you, make you stronger. It's really crazy that is true for a reason, right? Like that stuff that I went through really did, when I came out of the other end, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about like, just like seeing life differently. And like, I feel like I'm not a different person, but I had a lot of growth last year, if that makes any sense. Cause I always thought of myself as a kid, I don't know. It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you ever had something like that happen, but.
Well, I don't know if you've heard this story or not. And I almost don't want to mention it because then I have to tell the story again, but like, long story short, we're just going to leave it at this and let you wonder. Like I got struck by lightning when I was in the military.
You told me that story. I know it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
good. So now I don't have to tell it. Those of you that have never heard it, that are listening to the podcast, you just have to listen to all the other podcasts, and somewhere on there, it's on one of them. Anyways, after that happened, I definitely have like an anxiety trigger that is like, based around something going wrong with my body, and let's just say like sometime like it comes, the times that it comes around, which is odd because I do fucking mountain bike content, is especially whenever I'm like far away from where I could possibly get help.
Yeah.
So like a lot of these times when I'm doing these like high elevation rides, it starts like my anxiety starts going fucking crazy, right?
Yeah, totally.
And so then it's like this like vicious cycle for me because like I think I'm gonna have a heart attack or something like that, right? And even though like I'm telling myself like, dude, you're freaking crazy healthy, like you do these rides like all the time, like this is not it, and I also have like acid reflux kind of problem, right? With like indigestion. So what like if you're being logical about it, what happens is I get high at elevation. One of the like side effects of that some people experience from being at high elevation is indigestion, right? And since I already have like a issue with that, mine just gets worse. So then what happens is like my chest starts getting tight, and then I start thinking, oh, you're gonna have a fucking heart attack.
Yeah.
And then I start getting anxious, and then your heart starts beating more, and then you're like, you just like go into this rabbit hole where you're like, see, it's getting worse. I am gonna die.
Dude, last year the same thing happened to me. Like after that, the health scare or whatever, like any little thing that was wrong with me, I was like way more intensely looking at it all of a sudden. Like, what's that? What's this? What's that? And then the worst thing you can do is Google that stuff because everything's going to lead to you dying. Like everything is terrible. Yeah. So it was a weird, I'm trying to pull back from that a little bit because it's really easy to let your brain go there. The hard part is pulling it back, like being reality checking yourself. Like, chances are you're fine, dude. Like, stop it.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's definitely a weird situation.
TV shows, like medical TV shows, because whatever they're talking about, I definitely have.
Yeah. I start thinking about, well, I remember this one time last week that the thing, and
totally, dude, I'll hyper focus the shit out of everything, man. That's, I mean, like, I'm ADD, so it's like that's part of it is I just like hyper fucking focus on shit until I mean, it's a plus and a minus, you know, like making content, like, and getting super focused into something that you're doing is like that's great, you know, like you know, some days maybe I do fucking 4 days worth of work in one day, you know what I mean? But on the other hand, it's like when you're doing some hyper focus on something negative, that's not super fun, you know?
It goes both ways. The negative is weird. Like, it's weird how it happens too. Like, for me, the anxiety thing just like leads to the next thing. It really is like a rabbit hole. Like, one thought can lead to the next until you're able to, like, for me, I started coming out of it because I was realistically seeing it happen. Like, you get used to the pattern and you're like, whoa, this is not going to be helpful. I know where this goes. So like, you kind of like, it's weird to explain, but anybody that has anxiety kind of gets that, you know? But this year, like, it just, I'm starting off kind of different, like definitely feeling back to my old self, like more positive. The channel's going. I started my own little consulting business. Well, not little right now, it's little, but you know, we think positive. But so I don't know. Things are feeling a lot better this year.
Yeah, no, that's good though, dude. You know, but I felt like I still had one more point to make on that last bit. And it's like, the thing that I've noticed for me with the anxiety is it spirals more when I don't say anything about it out loud. So like when I'm on the trail and I'm just like having this mental battle with myself, like it's just going worse and it's like snowballing. And it's like the moment wherever I'm finally like say something to one of my friends, like, I'm having a bit of a issue right now. I'm trying to like keep my head together. Like just me telling them that, it's like cresting the top of the roller coaster.
I totally can relate.
It's weird just mentioning it.
Because you're like, it's almost like you're taking it out of your head and you're kind of sharing it. So it's like not as intense. It doesn't feel as like overwhelming. Like, you know, like I've been going to, you know, I don't care, I'll show this. I've been on and off going to like therapy throughout the years. And like last year, part of that, it wasn't like the therapist tells you what's wrong with you and gives you all this advice. A lot of it is just like telling that stuff to the air to get it out. And then hearing it out loud makes it more real. And you can kind of pull back from it and let it go. It's weird. Like I never got it before. I was like, what's that going to do? He just kind of sits there and he listens. Sometimes he says like stuff that's important, but like for the most part, you're just there trying to figure your stuff out, you know, like, like that mentality of like telling it to your friends is exactly how it felt like in the office or whatever. Like getting this whole out is a relief. Like you can kind of
that's the way I explain therapy to other people is like, honestly, for the most part, they don't say anything. It's just you talking and you figuring out your own shit. And every once in a while they'll throw you a bone, you know, but for the most part, it's like you walk out and you're like, why am I paying this person like anything? Because
I've done this in my living room.
you know, but it's like, but you actually need to pay somebody just so that you can like sit there and like admit something out loud to someone. I don't know what it is.
It's weird. Sometimes he doesn't say anything for so long that I'm like, is this guy even listening? And then all of a sudden I'll say something and he'll like point at me and be like, all right, let's talk more about that. So he is listening. Like that's his job is to try to work through this stuff and pull something out of what I'm saying, I guess, like, and settle on it. It's kind of weird because I was like, holy crap, he's actually spent like 20 minutes and he's still with me. Like, good for him.
I think it's good that we're talking about this because I honestly like I was talking about that nonprofit earlier and you know one of the reasons that's set up is because like there's all these guys with PTSD that are like offing themselves, right? And that's no good. And I think like, okay, when somebody like maybe has PTSD, people are like understanding of like, oh, well, they went and did something that like made them feel this way. And it's good for us to help them. But like a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that, you know, actually everybody is having issues all the time. And most of the time people just don't talk about it. You know, and like it's really good for us as adults to let other adults know that, like, hey, we're all struggling, and honestly, like, there's resources out there. And although it may be embarrassing to say, oh, you go to therapy or something like that, when you do it, you start realizing that it isn't embarrassing, and it's just like, no, this is normal.
Yeah, you really start to see, like you just said, as a perfect example. You're not alone. Everybody, no matter how perfect they act on the outside, has some stuff. Like, nobody's going through life like with green leaves, green pastures the whole way, you know? So, you know, and it's weird. Like, the more research I did about it last year, I learned, like, a lot of people think that depression looks like you laying in bed with the blanket over you, not leaving the house. Like, that's not really how it always works. Like, there's people out there that are your good friends putting a smile on their face and looking like they're a perfect day, but inside they're really struggling. So everybody deals with it different, you know?
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, just like what I was saying, you know, it's like when I'm writing, it's not like my friends are knowing that I'm inside, like, having a freaking meltdown. I feel like I'm going down like a drain, you know? And it's not until you say something, but you know, and I think it's like the therapy thing is like, I definitely was one of those people for a long time in my life that was like, there's no way that I need to go to therapy, whether it was like couples therapy or marriage counseling.
I was saying
whatever, you know, it's like always like, dude, I can figure this shit out, you know? And it once you have gone and you actually give it like the benefit of the doubt, you know, and like enroll in it. I mean, you can't go with your like arms crossed and be like, this ain't gonna work. You know, because
Goodwill hunting. You can't Goodwill hunting in there, like,
right. You know, so like, but once you go, like, you make sense of it, and you're like, you realize, and then I think it's like good to like pass that along. You know what I mean? There's been plenty of my friends that were like, maybe something was going on with their wife or something, and girlfriend. It's like, dude, go to counseling.
Yeah,
we don't need it. It's like, dude, just go. Like, what's it matter? Like if she left you tomorrow, would you be upset that you didn't pay $100 to maybe start working on her not leaving tomorrow?
Yeah.
And you know, like,
totally.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously.
Yeah. And you know, it's weird. Like, when you talk about it, like, I don't really talk about it that much. It came up here because we're talking about our life, but like, I brought it up, and I didn't know you ever went to see a therapist. You did. You were talking about it. So it's like, the more I talk about it to people that I don't know anything that they're doing that in the background, the more I find out that a lot of people are. It's way more normal than people think in the culture, society, you know, like, it's a really helpful tool that, like, once you go a couple times, it doesn't change overnight, but you feel lighter throughout your week. That's the only way I can describe it, you know? So
Better Health, if you're listening, I will take a sponsorship, and we can talk about this more.
There you go. You mentioned something before about going on rides and having that anxiety, and I only started really getting that in the last couple of years. And I had something happen in Utah this past year where I had a really bad crash by myself up in the top of the Wasatch Mountains. And it's interesting because I went into this ride. I picked it out because I was going solo. It's far away, but it's a blue ride, blue trail, and I didn't even wear knee pads. You know.
Yeah,
no full face,
in full on XC, no big deal.
Totally chill ride. And it just so happened at the top, I was coming around a corner. It was like a flow trail, and there was a big boulder in front of one of the doubles that I didn't see. It hit my front tire and just shot me, I want to say like 25 feet over the bars. I landed on my face. I think I had a concussion because a lot of stuff happened after the last 2 days, but like, I was so lucky to be able to walk from that. And it really made me think about it again, like, by myself. Like, I went into this planning to have a chill ride. You just never know what's going to happen that far away. So, like, I don't think that it's unhealthy for us to start thinking like that, like the anxiety of like, we're by ourselves, you know, like, maybe don't take as many chances as I used to. Like, that's like a really smart way to look at it, instead of like, I'm going to feel so good after I do this. Well, wait for your buddy to come along and the ride, then try it, you know? So like, the thoughts in my head are definitely a little bit different. Not taking even the easy rides for granted anymore, because you just don't know, man.
Dude, when I separated my shoulder, I couldn't ride for almost 6 months, let's just say. And it was a very bad experience for me because like riding bike is my mental clarity, the way I get the wiggles out, the way I like think through shit, the way it's the thing I do when I'm like upset or angry, or you know what I mean? It's like go like get your soul. It's my therapist, you know? And when that happened because my fork failed. It wasn't even because something I did wrong.
Yeah.
And that was one of those moments where it also really started making me think like shit, dude, it's not even like in my control. Like in my mind before that day, it was like, hey, just don't do anything stupid and like ride within your limits and you'll be fine. Kind of like you on that XC ride. It's like, but you don't know that you come across the trail and there's a tree down or like whatever it is. Like there's so many other things other than your own skill set that could potentially be damning for you.
Totally.
So yeah, I definitely like when I ride solo, I always tell somebody at least where I'm going and when I should be back, you know, or like, hey, I'll let you know when I'm done. You know, if the sun's down, obviously something's fucking wrong.
Yeah,
and,
I do that with my wife. Like, this is where I'm going, and this is the time I should be back. So smart.
Yeah, and with my wife, I'll tend to text her and even tell her like updates along the way, where it's like finished this trail, now I'm on this one. You know, because I don't want to be like let's say I freaking break my neck, you know, and I'm laying, 30 foot down some gully. I don't want to be laying there until tomorrow morning for them to follow and find me. You know what I mean? So like, it would be great if they could find me within a couple of hours because they at least know what trails I've done, you know?
Dude, it's funny. Like,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the key things too, that kind of sucks though sometimes is like, maybe I send her like a route and it's like, oh, something else happens and I want to take this other trail. And I'm like, no, stick to what you said you were going to do, you know?
Yeah, just in case. Like down here in, especially not Southern California, but Laguna specifically, there's a lot of unsanctioned trails that are pretty popular. People call them the Laguna Steeps. They're pretty gnarly. Like they're double black diamond, most of them. I used to like dabble a little bit here and there in them, but I don't do it and do them anymore. Well, I don't do them that much anymore regularly anyway, but I definitely don't do any of those trails solo because if anything goes wrong on those, nobody's going to find you because there's nobody looking, you know, like at least on the public trails, there'll be a ranger that goes through, another hiker, but like those ones that don't exist in the trail system, dude, you could be there for a day, you know, like just.
Yeah. I 100% relate with you. I was doing some trail building out in an area that is not established with trails, right? And generally speaking, when I told my wife, she just knew the area that I was going out to build. But I was out there in the middle of like nowhere, like cutting a trail in that doesn't exist. So it's like, let's just say a mountain lion attacked me and I'm laying there bleeding out. Like there's nobody that's going to know where I'm at because there is no trail there. You know? Like
it'll be like months later or something weird, you know, like who knows?
Yeah. So I was like, I like checked with my wife. I was like, so that like tracking on the iPhone, you still have that enabled, right? Because a while ago she got like a new phone and I was like, maybe that doesn't connect anymore because it's a new phone. I was like, because then at least she would be like, here's where he's at. You know,
there's the exact pinpoint. Exactly.
Yeah. Man.
It's weird. It's something to think about. Like I didn't take it seriously years ago. I don't know why. Maybe just because like nothing really woke me up to it. But in the last couple of years,
you're young, man. When you're young, you just don't fucking care, right? You don't.
Yeah, you don't even think about it. Like I used to say, like in my teenage years, I had like the no fear syndrome, where you don't think about the consequences at all. You just think I can do that. I don't figure it out, you know. Like, but later on in life, you actually have dealt with enough consequences that you're like, dude. I don't want to be in the hospital. I don't want to wear a cast for 6 months. I don't want to deal. I don't want to go to the hospital today. You know, like, if, you know, the risk is like reward balances out a little bit where you're like, I don't know, you know.
Like two things that I did when I was younger that on the regular that I wouldn't do now. Like one would be a bunch of friends are standing on a bridge looking down at some river underneath going, I don't know. You think it's safe to jump in? I'd just come up and be like, you know, and just be like, on the way down, I'd be like shooting them the bird. Fuck you, you know, and you know, only once did it not go well, but
only once,
Right. But that one time was enough for me to start being like, maybe I should reconsider this, you know? And the
Mhm.
other thing would be like skiing. I remember like I'd be like bombing down some hill and you'd always see people like when you can't see over to the next, like what's next, you know, people
Yeah.
always kind of stop and like look. And I would just come through it like mock Jesus, like figure it out when I come over the lip, you know?
Yeah,
And
I'll deal with that then.
yeah. And I remember always thinking to myself, man, what a bunch of pussies, dude. Just
Yeah, yeah.
standing around. Like, just go for it. You know, like
Yeah. So we have that mentality from when we're younger. And I guess the tough part is it's still probably autopiloted into us. Like, so when I come to a feature on the bike or anything like that, my adrenaline starts going up and I start preparing for it. Like, and I in the middle of that, I kind of have to now pull it back and be like, dude, like, you're just, what do you got to prove? You know, I have to like have this little voice in my head where it's like, you're older now, you're like mid-40s, dude, you could do this, Tony, but do you want to do it right now? What are the you know, like I have to have a dialogue going on to pull back from that automatic, like that rush that you want to do with it, you know, because it's so fun. Like, but I don't know. You know, who knows anymore, but
no,
like,
it's interesting, man. It's interesting getting old and or older and the things that are like that become revelations to you at certain ages. And the thing that I've been thinking about more and more is like, okay, like how much more I understand now than I did when I was 30, than when I was 20, than when I was in my teens, right?
Yeah.
So it's like in my mind, every step though, you always think you got the wraps on the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'm in my 40s right now. What's it like when I'm in my 50s? Like, what is it that I'm going to look at from my 40s and be like, you idiot?
Yeah.
Like,
so true. So there's a YouTube channel. I get lost in the YouTubes, obviously, like most of us, but there's a guy from Canada that does these videos. There's a really popular channel where he goes and he asks people of certain ages what they regret or what they would do differently. Like an 80-year-old, ask him what they would do if they were 30 or what advice they would give someone that's 40. And some of the answers are so like pure gold. Like they're at this age, they're completely over trying to make money. They've done their careers and they're able to have like a sunset mind state where they look at their whole life and pick out things that they prioritize that they wish they didn't. You know, like working 20 hours a day. Like a lot of the things that they say are what you would think, but it's interesting to hear it naturally come out from people like in real life. You know, it makes you, it's a cool channel and a cool concept because it really makes you think about the things that are really important. And as cliche as it is, like money isn't everything, all that stuff, money is nice and it's going to make you have a good life. But what most of them will say is like how you deal with the downtimes or how you deal with the problems is what's going to like make you have a better life. Like you don't have control out of situations, but you have control about how you think about the bad situations, if that makes any sense. Like it's kind of totally. It's kind of interesting, like seeing that perspective, I guess. Like that, I didn't even know it was a genre on YouTube. Sometimes that stuff pops up and I'm like, holy cow, it's got like 6 million views. Like it's pretty interesting.
Dude, there's so many genres on YouTube that I didn't know there was a genre for. And it's like, sometimes it's like, man, I'm over here freaking robbing Peter to pay Paul to get 20,000 subscribers. And this guy that's putting horseshoes on a horse and not saying anything has got 6 million views.
I was just going to say the horse one. Or like the one where they like have rotten horse cow hoofs that he's like skinning or whatever. Like, what the hell? It's got 50 million views.
Right? Yeah. Meanwhile.
Or like there's like there's a certain fetish too with like the pimple popper. Like it got so popular, she has her own show. Like I don't get it, but it's a thing.
No, that one I can't. My wife likes to watch like that stuff, and I'm not into it, man. Like the surgery shows too. I'm like, I mean, I'd be fine like coming up and somebody bleeding all over the place and their bones sticking out. Like I zero would have a problem with it in person, like dealing with the situation, but I do not want to watch it on TV.
Yeah, I get it.
It's like,
I don't know if I'd have. I give you credit. I think I would like freak out in person over that stuff. Like I've been around people that have broken their arms and things like that. It's super scary, but it doesn't like. I don't freak out and run away or anything, but it's like I don't know. There's like a creepiness to it that just hits me weird. I don't know. Like since I was a kid, for some reason, I've had a phobia of even getting like needles and stuff like that. It's like one of those weird things where I think what happened was like when I was super young, like she didn't do it right. So I have this weird phobia where she keeps sticking me with the needle wrong. So
Yeah,
like there's something I took away from that where that equals that. And then, like it's weird. It's weird how stuff like that is
My ex-wife
programmed.
used to pass out anytime she got stuck with the needle. Like,
yeah, it's probably
like,
similar to that. Yeah.
She had to like lay down, like literally, like they had to like put her on a table if they were gonna like take blood or something, because it was like 100% gonna happen.
Yeah.
And it was just so weird to watch, she'd be talking and all of a sudden it was like
totally. It doesn't make any sense either. Like I can take pain, or like I've sprained my ankle a million times, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
A needle though,
yeah.
Oh my God. I don't get it.
I mean, the same lady gave birth to both of our kids with like no pain medicine. You know what I mean? So it's like obviously she could take it, but holy cow. Yeah, crazy, man. So right before we started talking, I was watching Cullen and Samir. Do you watch that channel?
Not all the time, but I know, I watch enough of them. Yeah.
So apparently both of their houses got burnt down in those fires down there. Is
I
that like anywhere close to where you're at, or like
it is. It's like I'm like 40 minutes from there, but it's weird. Southern California is weird. Like Orange County and LA almost feel like two different states. Part of it is because of just like the culture, and part of it is because LA traffic is so gnarly that I don't go to LA unless like it's a special occasion. It's kind of like I grew up in Connecticut, and that's how New York felt. It kind of feels like that like the opposite in a way. Not that I dislike LA, but like it just feels far away. But technically, if I drove there right now, I could get there in like 45 minutes. So it's pretty close.
Oh, wow.
Like all those people that lost their fires, it's pretty incredible. Like even hearing like friends of friends, mountain bikers of friends, or there's somebody. I feel like somebody connected to us is dealing with that right now. It's pretty crazy. There's another one going on right now.
The thing that they said that really like brought my attention, like keyed me in, was there was a point whenever they were talking about somebody contacted them because the fire was in their area, right? And then they were like, oh yeah, well, everything will be fine. I mean, because if it got all the way to our house, that would mean like the whole city burned down. Like,
that's how I feel.
What's the likelihood of that? And when they said that, like I've had that exact conversation with my family when they've called and been like, hey, there's fires in Northern California that's like right outside of Sacramento. Are you okay? And I'm like, it's like that exact same statement has came out of my mouth. And it was like, it was one of that moment where I was like, man, that'd be, I mean, it's just like, I guess you need to like, man, this podcast is really being depressing. We should talk about something else.
I don't know, but dude, there's so much crazy stuff going on. Like, I totally could relate on that. Like, I always tell my parents the same thing. Like, when we have our fires, when it's close to me in Orange County, I'm like, it would have to go through an entire town to get to my house.
Right.
And that just happened, like up in LA. What the hell? Like, dude, it's really like over here, like it's close enough to where that whole week I'd wake up and we'd have ash all over our car. So it was like, so it was blowing out that far. And the winds are back right now. The Santa Ana winds are crazy right now. Like I was at Sky Park yesterday filming for like a promo with them, and we kept having to stop because the gusts would just come in. Like it would just like you couldn't talk or like don't do any jumps. But like, it's just crazy. It's crazy the weather right now, like just how stuff's going. But I get it. Like what's something positive we could spin we could spin this into right now.
How's that place? Are they like building new trails or something? I talk to people about that little trail network, or I don't know what you would even call it, because it's hard to call it like a bike park because it doesn't have a lift, but you pay for an entrance. But I tell people about that place all the time because it really blew my mind how much they had packed into such a small area. And like all the progression is just there. It's like so cool.
I learned to jump there on their blue trail. Like it really is I'm like nostalgic about it. That's why yesterday was cool. Like I went up there with Adam Mock and we filmed like a little promo they're doing. They're getting like different content creators to like do a spotlight on each trail they have, and they're going to put it on the website and kind of like work with us and partner with us and promoting the trails and stuff, which is cool. But they've always been down for content creators. The owner is a mountain biker. That's why when he bought the place, he created that whole trail system there. I mean, I will say this, like if you have an e-bike, that place is like might as well be a lift park. Like it's really like pretty. I mean, if you do have an e-bike, that's the place to bring it. Like it's
Yeah,
allowed.
100%.
And the trails are tightly wound, like you said, so you can get like a bazillion runs in one day and mix things up in a way that everything kind of feels new all the time. It doesn't always feel like you're riding the same trail all the way down. It's split into half and half, so you can take one trail down, go up the road, take another way down. It's really cool once you figure out the system and stuff. It's one of my favorite places for sure. That's cool. Like you went there, and it's totally weird, right? Like it's like a sky park and like a Santa's village. Santa's walking around. Like what the hell?
Yeah, like when he says it's totally weird is an understatement. Like it doesn't like it does not compute, you know, like in your brain when you walk in, it literally is like you just got plopped into the middle of the North Pole in Santa's village, and there's like gingerbread houses and candy canes every fucking where, and then there's also mountain bike trails with like wood features and like jumps and stuff, and you're like,
and like a legit bike park, you know, like with proper trails and stuff. And
you're like, this doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. One of the things I really like about it too is that it doesn't feel like Southern California at all. Like there's no palm trees. It's not like the desert climate. It feels like almost like the PNW or something, because there's these massive trees, there's ferns everywhere. It kind of transplants you out a little bit. I like the whole vibe there is pretty interesting. Like everything like it's kind of light and positive. Like there's elves walking around in character. Like what the hell?
Yeah. And then you like walk across the street and you can see all the way to the ocean and like all of LA or whatever valley that is in front of you, and it's just like phenomenal view. It's just it's really a unique place. I really enjoyed going there. I could totally see that being a fun place to go. I tell people all the time, like if you want to take a little fun family trip and you got some young kids or something like that, you could go and ride mountain bike while your wife's walking around and they're like in the paddle boat. Or
I mean so many riders saying the same thing. The dads are out on the trails and like mom's down with the kids, they're gonna get lunch, and then dad's gonna go back up on the trails. It's kind of like all encompassing, like the whole fam. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And then the families where like both the parents ride, it's like, okay, high five, your turn to do some laps and I'll go over here to the climbing wall with them, you know. And like,
it's pretty interesting. Man. Like that whole area up there now has like 3 bike parks, and then they're building another one at this other resort up the street from Sky Park. So there's going to be potentially 4 bike parks in that 45, like 30-minute zone. So if you want to like take a trip up there for a week, you can probably mountain bike a new spot almost every other day, you know, all within like a driving distance. Yeah, it's pretty cool. One of my ideas this year is to try to do a video where I hit all of them at the same day and just start at the end and just go bop, 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 bop and see if I can do it. But I think it's close enough where you can, as long as I don't stay like 2 hours each one or something.
Yeah. No, that'd be fun. It sounds like a good challenge video. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah,
so
it's good.
You mentioned earlier that you started this consulting business. What exactly is it?
So I've been kind of like, as a YouTube content creator, I've been kind of doing on and off like freelance marketing projects. So my career has been for over a decade is like social media marketing, core marketing. I was a marketing manager for some skateboard companies. I worked on the social media end, PR. I kind of have like a good background in that stuff. And then coming into this and learning how to create videos and working with the algorithm and all the other stuff that I just like, whole YouTube adds another piece into that whole puzzle. So on and off throughout the last few years, I've been taking on contract roles to do freelance and stuff like that. And I've found myself still having a lot of free time. So instead of like trying to jump into the job world again, the 9 to 5 and all that stuff, I'm trying to go a different way where I can feel like I still have control over my lifestyle and not have to like punch in and punch out if I don't have to. So the idea is to take that freelance mentality, create a business around it, and all encompassing them with that. Like whether you're a small business, a corporate business, a YouTube individual that's just starting a channel, or somebody that has a channel and wants to, work on something else. I give lessons. I have a couple people that I'm giving like basically like classes right now that want to start a channel that I do like a whole 3-month format where I'm giving like every week we're going to work on something else. Here's your homework. That's kind of cool. Like little professor, mini professor at home. But like there's that. And then I'm talking to some other people about helping their small businesses, taking over their social media, creating strategy around that. I'm also talking with a mountain bike association of creating a series of videos. And the cool thing about this is, this is another reason why I just love the channel and the community, is that me talking about this on my channel has led to a lot of people reaching out. And a lot of the people that I'm talking about right now come from being a subscriber or a word of mouth through mountain biking. So I just feel like this community is a really special place, man. Like people just want to like reach out with you, and like the string along the friendship thing kind of just goes like the viewers are becoming my real friends, if that makes sense, like real life.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's interesting how that happens. I mean, I've talked about it before, definitely on this podcast, where like most of the people that I hang out with now are all in one way or another kind of like friends from YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, and whether they were a subscriber that I met on a ride, or, you know, like just maybe somebody that I met on the trail, but they were like, oh yeah, I've watched your video. You know what I mean? It's like,
totally.
like just that kind of crazy.
It's great.
Like,
yeah. It's same thing with me. Like I've met you when I had one of these trips, the Patreon trip up to Downeyville. Like that's such a great group of people. We've all become like legitimate friends. And when I'm not around, they all ride together and stuff. So it's really rad how that transpires. Like everyone's like-minded. Everyone's like, it's cool when you get a group that nobody's really in competition with each other. Everyone's like rooting for you. And that feels very different than other phases of my life when everybody is like competing like for the next
they want your spot.
That. Like everyone's super chill and just like excited for you when you're doing well, instead of like, well, I gotta get there too. You know, it's a different yeah, it's pretty cool. The community's pretty rad.
Yeah, no, it's super fun, man. It's definitely interesting. So how are you juggling that with the channel? You know, do you see there being a conflict at some point? Because obviously, like you could get more busy with that than you want to be at some point.
Yeah, what I've done with the channel for a few years, when I started, I was very consistently prioritizing doing a video every single week. So what I've tried to do in the last 6 months or a year even is like I make videos not every week, but maybe twice a month when I want to. And so I don't have that, because I started to get a little bit of that burnout with doing one every week, trying to force it. So me pulling back a little bit and not feeling like I'm emboldened to this calendar and prioritizing something else, either just as much or a little bit more, and transitioning into something different. It's interesting because when that mind state changed for me, it kind of helped me motivate me and do stuff with the channel more, because I wasn't taking it as serious and it became more light, like a lighter piece of my life. So I've been having more fun making videos that I want, like, and just have an idea and just do it, instead of like, how many views is this one gonna get? Is this a great idea? Is this gonna, like, I started taking things a little bit too seriously, and that's not why my channel grew. I don't think it just became a thing when I started taking the lifestyle more serious. It just felt more serious. So it's interesting now that I've been prioritizing this other side of things. Like, I think that because I'm trying to manage my lifestyle still, instead of being emboldened to the 9 to 5, I should be able to figure out time to mountain bike and still do videos and stuff. But I don't know. I guess the real answer is because I haven't gotten to the point where I have like 5 or 10 clients, and I have, I'd like to say I'll get to a point that I don't want to get too much where it becomes super stressful. Like I'm not trying to, you know, buy a mansion. I just want to have a stable financial lifestyle to do the things that I like to do. So yeah,
I feel like you should spend some time building a video series that does what you're doing, as well as offering it for like in person.
Yeah,
because then you can have that, like, that passive income side of it, and then people can decide like, hey, for X price you can have me in person, and for half of X you can have me on a video, you know, and pick your poison, you know, and then go from there. And if you bought it on the video and then you want me, you get it for this price, you know what I mean? Like,
I've been touching on that idea a little bit. Like the last video I made was like everything GoPro settings and things like that. Yeah. And that kind of incorporated a little bit into my YouTube class that I'm trying to help one of my clients do that, because that's where that idea came from. And there's been a lot of people that make these YouTube GoPro videos too. And I know a lot of people aren't using GoPro anymore, but I see so many people on the trails that still don't know what to do with the angles and how to make the wind stop. So I made that one, but like it goes along with exactly what you're talking about. Like I'm starting to think about ideas when I'm putting like a class together of like, oh, I should make a video about that. Like not a lot of people take thumbnails seriously, for example, or a lot of people don't get the mentality of like, I think the thumbnail, you probably agree, the thumbnail is as important as the video. Like,
just as, like, if not more, you know?
And a lot of people will put all this time into making a video for 20 minutes, 3 days editing it, and they're just throw up whatever screensaver on the video. And it's like, that's why you're not getting views. It sucks, but like you have to judge the book by its cover in YouTube, you know, it's kind of how it goes, right?
Yeah. I also like, I try not to give people too much of this advice when they're thinking about starting, but for me and the type of personality I am, it was really important. And I think in the long run, it helps is also thinking about your like long-term strategy and branding, like when you start, you know? So and it's on yours, but I mean, I urge people, like, don't put anything that has to do with mountain biking in your name.
Yeah.
Like unless, you know, like, because when you start, you're going to 100% think that that's the only content that you want to make, but it could be later that you want to like spread out a little bit or something like that. You know what I mean? Where like that could hold you back. And for me, like I didn't have mountain biking per se, but like, it was like, okay, well, I'll just like use biking, and then it's very broad in that sense, you know? But even then it's still like, I've still even come up to where like, oh, well, I could be making other outdoor content because I do all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, then I'm like, well, if I'm going to make that content, I actually need to do another channel and blah, blah, blah. But outside of that, like just thinking about, okay, don't make your URL for your channel, you know, the Outsider MTB Laguna Hills 1953, because nobody's going to be able to remember that. You know what I mean? So like stuff like
funny
that,
you say that.
As far as the branding part is what I'm talking about, you know?
I've been thinking about the last 6 months like that, the MTB thing, and like maybe that's just the Outsider and just chopping that bit off, because you know that works too, and it kind of like lends itself to more of a lot more lifestyle outdoor stuff, you know. So that's a possibility for me, even because that's totally something. One of the things I thought of when I started was like, I didn't want to have my name in it, because I don't know, like, say this channel becomes something else, I'm not going to do it. But like, say somebody wanted to buy the channel, you know, they're not going to buy the channel with my name, Tony Da Silva MTV or something. But if it's the Outsider, and that's one of the reasons I always say I'm Tony from the Outsider channel, like I'm lending myself to this platform or whatever. Like, it's weird the mindset you put yourself in, but there's little things like that people will think about that, like they may or may not later on come into conflict with some new idea you have. So try to like make it as broad as you can, right?
Yeah, I mean, my mind, it's funny you said that, because part of the reason that I say like I'm Robert and this is the biker channel is because I wanted people to understand how to say it, because I used the number in there, you know? And then B was also similar. Like in my mind, I was like, well, if this channel gets to a spot where I could have another creator, they could be, you know, like, you know, hey, this is Tony and the biker channel. And there would be like, oh, well, maybe people just want to watch when Tony makes a video and not when Robert makes a video, or it doesn't really matter. Like, I didn't want it to be like, I'm biker. Unfortunately, like that just happens by like default though. People, you know, unless you come in with a crew, you know what I mean?
I mean, I see people all the time in the trails and they call me the Outsider. Like, that's just kind of how it goes. It's like, you're the only one doing it. So that's what you become, right?
One of these days we'll show them there's more to us than just one person.
Well, like, it's interesting because you brought up Colin and Samir, and they just named after themselves, right? Like, those guys are, I guess there's exceptions to the rule because they're just staying with them too. So,
but they also like the other, I've watched as a content creator, you end up watching a lot of like how to be a content creator content. And I've noticed with a lot of these channels that are really big, most of them have had multiple YouTube channels for typically at least 10 years before they got to the channel that you're watching that has 3 million subscribers. You know what I mean? And like, it's interesting, you know, it's like, because for me, I love the biker channel and I love creating content, but I could also see that this could also just be the way that I learned how to make content. And I do something completely different, you know?
Yeah. I tell people, like, one of the guys that I'm teaching right now, he started it because he wants to not Uber forever. He's an Uber driver. And he kind of is just looking at it like a job later on. And I had to have this like heart to heart with him where if you start, if you're in here to make money, then honestly, I don't think you should do it. Like, the reason that you're here is because you have a passion for it. And worst case scenario, like what you just said, you're going to take skills away from these hours you're putting in for the rest of your life. For me, it was like being comfortable in front of a camera, talking to a group of people. I used to have like public speaking fright, and now I'm okay with it. Learning how to edit, learning marketing, you know, creating videos, creating a storyline around your videos. Like, there's a bazillion things that you're not really thinking about that all of a sudden one day you're like, I know how to do that. I know how to do that.
Yeah.
People went to school how to do that, and I already know how to do it. Like, you're going to take these skills into maybe a new job or another career or whatever, right? So there's such an importance besides that money and sponsor stuff.
I don't know if you've had this conversation with that dude, but I think him being an Uber driver could be an awesome channel.
I told him that. Hold on.
Yeah, because to me, like, in my mind, I'm like, dude, if you had some cameras set up in that car, and when the person gets in, you're like, hey, I do a YouTube channel about the people that I drive around. Do you mind if I film? And then just having like the conversations that like you could naturally interview, like every conversation I've had with an Uber driver, my wife and I are both talkers. So it's like we get in and it's like, oh, you're from Pakistan. Oh, tell me about that. And then it's like, oh yeah, well, you hiked to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, and you're like, what the fuck? All this shit comes out, you know? Like, I think it would be a really fun channel. I think they could be they could be the horseshoer. You know?
It reminds me of, like, I don't know if you remember HBO back in the day. They had like Taxi Cab Confessions in New York. Where they had, a cab driver filming and these crazy, like 3 a.m. drunk people or whatever. But like every one of them was insane. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, man. I feel like he's sitting on a gold mine. He probably doesn't even know it. The other end of it is I could probably search Uber driver channel and there's like 1,000 of them.
There are. I mean, I've seen them. Usually the ones that pop up with the views are like Uber drivers having to kick someone out and them not leaving. So it becomes this confrontation. Anything violence on YouTube is like millions of views for some reason. Yeah. It's the same reason our videos, the crashes are so high. They do so well. It's kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I've definitely like it's interesting. There's a lot of things that I've learned from having this channel or these channels than what I expected, you know, and some of them are the obvious things like, yeah, I learned how to edit, or I learned how to tell a story differently. You know, like I'm a talker. I've always like been a person that's like at the party telling a story and making people laugh. But it's like to tell a story that keeps people engaged on YouTube is totally different. You know, because if you start out telling it the same way that you would tell somebody in person, like they're going to click something else. Like you can take more time in person and like say some shit that's kind of boring where they're maybe wandering a bit. But on YouTube, you give somebody that moment and there's like 19 thumbnails over here saying, hey, click me. You know,
you have like 3 seconds to like snag them. And then the 10 seconds in the beginning of the video, it's like there's these stages that you have to go through, you know, where like you just said, you're at a party or something. They're not going anywhere. They're hanging out, listening to you. Like they're already there. So it's, and you know, like, but like you obviously get like people react to your stories and stuff, and you're getting a positive thing. And the feeling that's interesting is that you can take that confidence in YouTube, but the person you're talking to has never met you, maybe. So it's like starting this new relationship at the same time. And there's a whole nother, it's just a whole nother ballgame thinking about it that way. Like it was weird for me creating videos and not thinking of, like, at first I would think about like, I'm just going to make this video because I like doing this thing. And this is what I think they will like. Instead of me thinking about what they actually would like, looking in the other way. Like you have to start thinking about what would I like if I was watching that video as a viewer, instead of like that whole thing of like kill your babies, you know, that term of like, I used to do this intro in my videos with the camera, and it would be like floating around the car on a way to ride for like a minute. And I would like have this huge drop off in all my videos. And then I cut that out And it was like it flatlined where it's like, oh, people are sticking around because nobody cares about that shit, But I liked it, so I had to kill my baby, and like it hurt to do, but you got to do that stuff sometimes,
Do you watch that Hayden guy? What's it, Hayden Hiller Smith?
What's that one?
He's an editor, but he does content on editing. He used to edit for like Mr. Beast and I think like Logan Paul or something like that. One of the Paul. Yeah, it's funny because he mentions that "Kill Your Babies" thing a lot. So that's actually where I learned it from. So I thought that maybe you were referencing him.
It's funny, I learned it from, and when I was in Sedona, I had dinner with Paul the punter, and he's like,
"Yeah, okay,
I got a little advice for you." And he told me that he's like, "You got to kill your babies," and he's like, I'm like, "Be more specific," and he's like, "Just look at your intros," and or something like that. And so I got it, and that's kind of what made me start thinking about the whole thing differently. Like that little like idea that popped, it like opened up my brain to start really thinking about everything differently. Like
Paul's delivery wasn't always the greatest, but what he said usually was pretty spot on.
Yeah, his delivery was, I'll be honest with you, terrible sometimes, I like Paul, but
he can find a way to shit on you and make you really feel like you got shit on instead of it being great advice. And it was really good advice that he was giving you.
Yeah, you have to like scrape the frosting off of the delivery, and then there's like a little nugget underneath,
Yeah. He's a good dude, though, man. I mean, at the end of the day, he was obviously knew what he was talking about. I mean, he did great with his channel, and but it's always interesting with him. Yeah, it's interesting, like you had said about the public speaking thing too. It's like when I started, I've never really had much of a problem public speaking, but it was definitely odd for me to stand up in a trailhead that maybe has a bunch of people in it and start talking to a camera by myself.
Yeah.
That was like definitely something that was like, oh, like you feel like people are gonna look at me like I'm a weirdo. And it's like, realistically, people don't give a shit.
That's starting to happen again for me because I'm trying to do more like travel stuff. So I'm in public a little bit more, filming myself like in a restaurant, and I have that like that same feeling I used to have in the mountain bike trail where I was doing it like with the camera. Where now I don't care about that as much. Now I'm in public and it's like everyone's looking at you, like the normal crowd, like this influencer. Look at him. Who does he think he is? Like I feel that a little bit, but like.
Yeah, but on the other hand, like maybe they're not looking at it negatively. Like there's probably a bunch of people that are looking at the camera and the guy, and they're like, "Who is that dude?"
Yeah,
knowing you and you're in LA, they're like, "Look, it's Casey Neistat right over there."
Yeah, it's true. It's weird. Like my brain automatically goes to like I'm doing something cringe, where it's like, everybody's, it's pretty normal these days. It's not that weird, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's very normal for people to be walking around talking to a camera now. So, which is odd in its own, but it's definitely not as weird as it was, 10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah. Hey, I was going to ask you, how are you doing? Like the weight stuff. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
I was going to ask you the same thing. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
So, last year I realized that there was a pattern going on. So I started, let's just say in COVID, and I was like 300 pounds. I'm like, okay, I can't tell people I'm just like a big guy or myself. I can't tell myself I'm just a big guy anymore. I am fat. And and so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna lose weight. So I started losing weight, lost like 60 pounds, but I wanted to lose 80. And then whatever happens, you lose your motivation, something, injury, whatever. And like I stumbled, and then the end of the year it was like, or maybe a year later, it was like, I gained some weight back, and I made this video in January. I'm like, okay, this year I'm going to lose the weight that I just gained back, but I didn't get up to 300 again, but it's like got closer. And then it's like, I'm going to lose the weight, and then I'm going to get to the goal. And then a whole year would go by, and then that next January, I would make the same video again. Like, okay, so I lost the weight. I told you guys I lost some weight in March, and now I gained some weight back. But this year I'm going to lose the weight. And so I did that apparently like 3 or 4 years in a row, and I didn't really like realize it. So like last January I was at like 286, I think, and I'm climbing up this hill, and I'm like just thinking about it. I'm like, fuck, dude, like. Here you are again in January, like about to make this video. Well, at that point, I didn't even know I was making a video. I was just climbing this hill. but like thinking like, fuck, dude, like here you go again. Like you need to do something different. And I literally just took my phone out of my pocket and was like, I'm filming the way that I feel right now.
Okay.
And that's when I made that video where I'm like, I feel like I'm a failure. And it was just like a 3-minute video. And that's when in my mind, I was like, I'm going to do this show every week that just checks in on what I'm doing with my weight loss. And it doesn't matter if nobody's there or not. I'm just going to do it as like an accountability thing.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing that show like pretty much every week all year. And one way or another, I don't know if it's the show that helped or what, but I'm here now and I'm still not at my goal, but I'm still 45 pounds lighter than I was last January.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
Something's working.
Yeah.
I would really like
wonder,
to get to the goal.
Is it like because you're keeping yourself accountable week by week, you kind of like have to stay in it? Do you think like making the video, it's kind of like you're calling yourself out all the time to like pay attention?
I think it's a combination, man. You know, like I think it's a combination of like I would love to sit here and tell you that show, which is called Backpedal, has nothing to do with my success this year. I would love to tell you that.
Yeah.
I would not necessarily know if I would be honest in saying that though. Like there's definitely been weeks where it was like you're getting the fuckets, you know, and it's like, oh man, but next Tuesday I have to step on that scale.
Yeah.
And I have to get online, and I know there's at least going to be one person there that I'm going to be telling like I fucked up this week.
Yeah.
And it's not my wife. You know what I mean? And like it's really easy for you to like go home, stand on the scale, and tell your wife, "Fuck, I gained 3 pounds this week," and her be like, "Oh, well, you know,
yeah, whatever,
next week," you know, and you're like, "Sweet," you know. And, but like, I attribute part of it to the show. I attribute the other part of it was really that realization of climbing that hill that day and just realizing like, dude, this is a pattern. Like, yes, you know how to lose weight, and yes, you can successfully lose weight quickly, but you're also successfully catching it back by the end of the year. Maybe not all of it, but like you're doing this like over and over again. And like, obviously something has to change. Like something has to change in your mindset or the approach that you're taking. Like, because this is not, I mean, unless you're just okay with it, like that could be fine too. You know what I mean? But like, if that's the case, then stop telling people you have this fucking goal and just like be like, hey, this is what I do. I gain weight and I lose weight, you know?
Yeah. I wonder what it was though. Cause it sounds like if you've done this for a couple of years in a row or a few years in a row, you must have gotten to a certain part of the year where you kind of like are at similar to your goal weight or around a good place. And I wonder, cause this happened to me. I got a little bit complacent and didn't take it as serious because I'm already here. So by not changing my lifestyle consistently from my weight and then forward, just getting to that weight, I started to get back into old habits, like drinking too much or overeating. And then slowly, without me even realizing it, after a couple of weeks, I'm eating more and I'm drinking more. And it's not overnight, so it doesn't feel like that different, right? So for me, that's what happened, you know.
I think the two things that were really my problem is like, I have this, you know, all or nothing kind of personality. Like I was talking about earlier about being really focused. Like some people say all or nothing. Like I actually like to like think of it as more as like, it's an all or all personality. Yeah. Like I'm all into being like healthy and fit, or I'm all into being like fat and overweight. Like I really don't like it's like that way. It's not, like when I decide I don't give a fuck anymore, like I really like could be like, yesterday I ate exactly how many calories I was supposed to eat with the right amount of protein and blah 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 blah, and then the next day be like, I ate 3 pizzas and 2 pints of ice cream and I'm fucking okay with it, you know? So I think what happened for me is I would in the past, when I was younger and my metabolism was better, like what I would do is like, say I gained 30 pounds, right? And it'd be like, all right, I'm going to lose 30 pounds. So like lock it down, and a month, maybe 2 months at the most, it'd be like, boom, lost 30 pounds, and sweet, now I'm good. And maybe over a couple of years, I'd be fine. And then slowly something, some injury would happen or something like that. And then I'd be like, oh, wow, I'm fat again. So like I learned this process of like how to like super lock in and lose weight and be efficient at it and do it quickly. So in my mind, it was always like, oh, it's only going to take 30 days to lose 40 pounds or 30 pounds. So like in my mind, it would always be like, well, I'm not really fucking worried about this because I know if in a month I can like lock it in, right?
Dude, that's a lot in a month and a half. Wow.
Yeah. So
Holy crap.
but it's like just insanely freaking strict and like just
suffering.
like a ridiculous like basically I would be like super strict and like doing as much activity as they would do on like the Biggest Loser, like all day on that. You know what I mean? It's just like a completely unsustainable lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
But so like I learned this, and then I think I built this like this idea that way, and I think whenever I first started like I guess to back up, like as you get older, your metabolism doesn't react as well, right? So my 1 month would turn into like, okay, well, it takes 3 months now, but still in my mind, it's like, yeah, I could fuck off for 7 months of the year. And in 3 months, boom, I'm back, And I think that whenever I first started at 300 pounds, it was pretty easy to burn through weight. And so when I lost like the 60, it was like, oh, well, I feel pretty comfortable. Like I don't feel disgusted when I look in the mirror, and I look way better than I did at 300. So it's real easy to start like letting things like slide in. And I think that's what would happen every year. It would be like January, it would be like, all right, get back together and have this idea that I'm just going to lock it in and then lose the weight. And then I'd get to a point where I'm starting to get comfortable, and then slowly, like you said, just adding things in. It's like, oh, one cheat day turns into two cheat days. And then it's like, well, I can have like 2 beers after 3 rides during the week, but as long as I don't go home and keep drinking beer, you know what I mean? Like, and next thing you know, you're like, and I'm freaking just smashing beer like I'm on vacation.
That's what it was for me. Like when I opened the door a crack, the next day I would just slam it open, you let your brain go a little bit in there and you give it a little taste. And then like, I'm in now, it's weird how that works. Like for me, it was, this was kind of the first time I've ever done something like this. Like I kind of was always like a slim kid. Like I was always active, but we talked about this before too. Like during COVID, the slow change of the routine, I slowly started gaining weight. And then after COVID, I never lost it. I just kind of kept that lifestyle going. So I was up, I was like 50 pounds heavier a few years ago. And I don't know if I told you this, but like I was doing a video, and then one of the comments in the video, somebody called me fat. And I was like, holy crap. Like that was just like an acknowledgement of like, I have to look in the mirror and see if this is true. And I did. And I was like, holy shit. Like he's being a dick, but like, that like comment started to make me take it more seriously. Like instead of seeing it as a gradual way, and this is me now, I looked at like a video or a picture of me a few years ago and I looked very different. And that's kind of what motivated me a little bit to jump into it. And it would do it like, I don't know, like when you said you did it in 30 40 days, like that much weight, dude, that's a lot. Like I found it pretty difficult. Like it's hard to stay motivated doing it, because I remember for the first few weeks, I was like buying different groceries and doing all these totally different things. And then after a week or a month of doing that, I was totally burnt out on that. It wasn't sustainable. So I made all these mistakes in the beginning. And I think that was one of them for me, was like changing too much at once. So what ended up working for me was not changing the food that I was eating, but changing the amount of food. So I would like force myself to like stop a little bit early when I didn't want to. I could have ate the whole thing. I could eat the whole pizza, but I'm going to eat like 3 slices and, shut the door on it. And like slowly by doing that, it didn't feel as insane to me anymore. Like, I think that my stomach got used to it a little bit. So I would get full quicker because I stopped doing things like that. But it just slowly started coming off. and this maybe what happened to you, like when I started to see results, I started to get more motivated because I'm like, okay, this is actually working. Instead of like putting all this effort into something and suffering and then nothing happens, then I would be like, fuck it. Like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't know what I'm going to do. But just the like little motivation of losing 5 or 10 kept me going on that. And, you know, it ended up working out. The hardest thing for me to do, though, is like once I got here, I just was like that mentality we talked about where I was just like, oh, I did it. Let's go. Like, let's party, you know?
And that's part of the thing that I was, that I think I came to the like an understanding with in this last year was that I kept telling myself that like get to 220 and then you can do whatever the fuck you want because you'll be skinny. And I really had to get to a point where I understood that, dude, you're not 20 anymore. And even if you get like the last time I was 220, I was in my early 30s. So it's like my metabolism is not what it was then. And it is not like, it is just not the same. Like it is way more work for me to lose weight than it was then. And who knows what those reasons are. But I think once I started realizing that like it actually wasn't like go on this thing to lose the weight. It was like I really actually have to change my life. Yeah. Like I really have to change like and then kind of experimenting with that throughout the year. And then also, you know, like as Bob Ross would say, some happy little accidents, you know, like I started last year like with the same process. Like in my head, I was like, I ain't drinking for like 3 months. I'm gonna just freaking lean in, you know. I call it like my Nazi diet, you know. Yeah. And fortunately, I was like 1 or maybe 2 weeks in. I think it might have even been like the first week. It was first week or 2. Something happened with one of my friends and they like needed some support. And it was like a situation where it was like, well, I'm not going to have any beers with them. I'm not drinking right now. I'm being a Nazi, right? You know, like, and my wife had said something to me was like, you know, your friend just needs some, like, have a beer with them. Like, it's not a big deal, dude. Yeah. You know? And because of that, it like, I weighed in that next week though. And I was like, oh, I still lost weight. Like, okay, wait a minute. You don't have to be like completely strict and you can still like make this work. And then I really started trying to understand of like, if I'm consistent in these ways, maybe it's not as like big of a number every week, but it's like consistently like I'm going to be better consistently. Yeah. Yeah. It's not like it's a marathon, not a race or whatever that term is, right? It's not like, it's not a sprint. It's like, let's go long game here. Yeah. And so I think that has really helped too. It's like, and I've definitely in this last year, like, okay, I'm going on vacation and I get on vacation and I'm like, do whatever, let's just say, you know, for a week. And then it's like, you come back and it's like, okay, now I can see how much weight I actually gained or whatever that is. And then like, if you get right back on the bus, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't like, okay, maybe it takes 2 weeks to lose whatever you gained during that 1 week of like letting it go. Yeah. But then you're still like on that forward progression instead of like, man, it's so easy to be like, oh man, I was on vacation for 2 weeks. And then the first week back to work, you're like, well, you know, everybody wants to go to dinner tonight. Yeah. You know, like it's so easy to like talk yourself into it. And yeah, I'm hoping that this is like when I started last January, I thought without a doubt, like I was going to give myself like by like June, I thought I would be at my goal for sure. Yeah. And that would have been like 60 pounds. And I think I lost by June, maybe 30. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe by my birthday. And then like I went on another vacation and maybe an injury or something. I don't remember everything that happened, but it was like I kept seeing that like thing creep away. And then I was getting like kind of angry at myself that I wasn't there yet. Yeah. But then on the same note, it was like, wait a minute, you're you're sustaining at least.
Yeah,
like if
you're going in the
anything,
right
you've
direction.
learned how to sustain. You know what I mean? So like if this takes you a year to sustain at 45 pounds less than where you were last year,
yeah,
and then you can work on the next. Let's say I only make another 20 pounds in the next year. Like,
it's okay.
right on. Like, am I going to be upset about that? Like, if I told 300-pound me, dude, you're going to get to 220, except for it's going to take you 4 years.
Yeah.
5 years.
Well,
Like,
it's like
I
you
would have
said, you
been like,
broke the pattern. You also broke your
yeah,
pattern, you know, so that
yeah,
consistency is winning for you.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah, somehow. I mean, but what I've learned is that, man, you are really like just one decision away from like it all falling apart.
Yeah,
You know,
totally.
like,
That's what I keep saying. Like when I open that door, I'm
yeah,
going to bring up another topic that goes along with this. And
yeah,
before I
yeah.
bring this up, I want to say like this is a topic that I don't know if like I like listening to people talk about because they're very preachy when I tell you what I'm doing.
Oh yeah, here we go with CrossFit.
No. So I quit drinking recently. So
Okay.
that for me is a big deal. But like that's why I want to start this conversation in a way that like I really get annoyed when people say this like grandiose, like I quit drinking and look how healthy I am and poo-poo on you for drinking. Like I really enjoy drinking. I didn't quit because, or I'm not trying to quit because I don't like it. I really enjoy it. We've had beers together. It's one of my favorite things to do and socialize. But I just got to the point where like I just started to feel unhealthy from it. Like you talked about like your metabolism changing and things like that. I started to like really take notice of it later or at the end of this year. I really started to lean into drinking as like a crutch. Like I like it for social situations. I just want to relax after a hard day. I was starting to make all these excuses. And then before I knew it, I was drinking like 5 days a week and then waking up with anxiety. My gut sucks. Like I just started to like got kind of sick of it. So I decided like, okay, as cheesy as it is, January 1st, I'm going to start like New Year's resolution, whatever. But like, I know that's cheesy, but like I wanted to have like a date in the sand, like stamp it.
Yeah.
So it's only been like, it's almost been like a month right now. But that idea that you're talking about with food is, I keep saying like, once the door opens a little bit, I'm going all in. Cause it's the same mentality I have right now with the beers. Is like if I give myself the option, like if I just have like if I open the door just 20%, I will drink or I will go get a beer or I will make an excuse for it, you know. So that's what I'm trying to hold on to right now is to like be consistent with my choice every single day. And the interesting part is like I don't know if I'm gonna ever not drink again. But I just know like right now I need a break. I don't want to say like I don't know if I'm an alcoholic. I don't know if I have a terrible problem. But I think at the end of the year, it started to become problematic for me. So like, I just need to like, I want to give it a break because I thought about it. I've been drinking consistently for like 25 years, you know, without giving this a break. So I'm like putting a timeout in, I guess, in there.
Yeah, I from time to time will just stop like I want to like reset some things, you know. And then I also will like notice like I'm doing that a little more than I probably should, you know.
Yeah.
And so I can totally relate with it in that aspect. On the other hand, like, or in addition to that, like just the other day I had a conversation with a buddy of mine that I haven't talked to in a while, and he's like, "Yeah, I haven't had a drink in like 7 months." I'm like, "Oh shit, you quit?" And he's like,
"Yeah,
I didn't try to."
Yeah,
he's like, "I just haven't really wanted to." And the conversation I had with him is the same that we're about to have. Is like, I can totally understand where you're coming from, man. Like you said about the anxiety. Like if I go out and get like, I'm not saying freaking like 20-year-old drunk, but if I catch a good buzz, like the next day, my anxiety is definitely worse.
Yeah, I wake up. Like, I wake up kind of panicky almost. Like the day is like, I need like 4 hours to like get normal or like mentally get to myself. And it was like, oof, it's tough. You know, I didn't used to get that.
And it would be like, oh, like my indigestion would be worse that day. Like it's not necessarily like I have a hangover. It's not necessarily like I didn't drink enough to have like to be feeling shitty. It's just like you notice that your body is just not like it's not bouncing back like it did before, you know.
Yeah,
so I can I can totally understand where you're coming from, and like, right on, dude. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't need alcohol to have fun. You know what I mean? It's just it's definitely ingrained into our society that that's like part of it, and then you feel like an outsider for for not like participating, you know. And do you watch Dustin Klein?
I don't
He's
think
like more
so.
of a gravel guy.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, he's up in the PNW, and he just recently did a video where he stopped drinking as well.
Oh, okay.
And it was something similar. Like, it wasn't like, hey, I want to like be preachy about not drinking alcohol, but he was saying like all these other riders that he like really looked up to, like how well they rode and stuff like that, like they weren't drinking. So he's like, I'm just gonna give it a shot. And one of the things that he said in his video, he said that it's really strange. Like, you feel really weird not like drinking with the other guys that are all cracking beers at the end of the ride. And he's like, as long as you have something in your hand, nobody fucking cares.
That's what I heard. I heard that before. Yeah. Like, nobody gives a shit.
But yeah. He's like, if it's a LaCroix or a, like, he's like, as long as you like open something and you're drinking something next to them, like nobody even fucking notices. He's like, I haven't even mentioned to my friends I'm not drinking for the last month, and nobody said anything. You know, and it's like,
I totally
it's kind of funny.
That.
Yeah. It's kind of
like, we're so ingrained in our world. We know it's different, so everyone else must know, I guess. You know, but like, really, like, nobody's really thinking about you, right? Like, they don't care that much. They're worried about themselves.
Or even if you tell them, like, you're like, yeah, I'm not drinking right now, they're like, oh, okay, cool. You know, like very seldomly is it going to be like the 1980s like Dare commercial where they're like, come on, man, beer with me, dude. You know, like,
it's kind of interesting. I thought about it. Like, I don't know. Like, so far, it hasn't been very difficult for me. And I think part of it is because of where I'm at in life. I think if I did this like 10, 20 years ago, I had a whole completely different lifestyle. Me and my friends would go to the bar every other night. That was what we did. We would go skate and then we'd go out at night. Because I don't do that anymore, and I'm kind of a homebody and just hang out with the wife and the dog, it's not as difficult as maybe it would have been. And I don't know. I'm not trying to like say I couldn't do it then, but it would be a lot more difficult to do then. It would be a lot at once, because I would be changing that aspect, and I'd have to change my routine, because I don't think that like not drinking, I don't think I would enjoy going to the bar every night sober. Like, I'm sure I could do it once a week if I have to, or do it, you know, go for a couple hours, but not for like 6 hours where I used to go and drink with the buds, you know. I just have a window now that's a little smaller, I think, socially. So
I love drinking. I love drinking, just like you said, you know, I like going out and having a good time. I hate drunk people if I'm sober. Like, I cannot be around drunk people if I'm sober. It just does not work for me.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet, but I hear the same thing. I hear you just kind of watch people get stupid.
Like, it's just like, I just get very annoyed. And then I'm also very impatient. So it's like I just, like, if you're drinking and you want to go, right? Like, it could be like a fly like buzzes by you and you're like, oh, fuck it, let's have another beer.
Yeah,
you know. But if you're sober and you're ready to walk out the door and then that guy does that, you're like, dude, I thought we were leaving. Like, I'm ready to go.
You're like, oh. Totally, man. Like a kid, like if you pick up a kid at school at their playground, they always have something else they have to do or whatever, you know. It's like, you become kids.
I'm definitely not at a spot where I want to say I want to quit drinking, but I've definitely in the last year made a little bit of a different like relationship with beer, you know. And I would say in the past I would either not drink, or I would get drunk.
Yeah.
Like I don't necessarily like to me it'd be like, well, I don't want to drink 3 beers. What's the point of having 3 beers?
Yeah.
Like, I don't really like some people, like my wife can have a glass of wine every night and that's it. Like, if I have a glass of wine, I'm drinking a whole fucking bottle.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm at least not finished.
We're similar in that. That's part of it, is like, if I have 2 or 3, I'm drinking tonight. That's what we're doing, right? Like,
exactly.
You know, what's the point of having 2? We're just starting to have fun.
Right. So I've definitely come to a place now where it's like, my wife and I can go out to sushi and we can have, you know, I could have 2, 3, 4 beers when we're out having dinner, maybe some sake, and come home. And it's like before it would be like, come home, it's like, dude, I'm gonna go out to the garage. I'm gonna crack open another beer. I'm gonna start working on the bike. Like it's on now.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and
There we go.
and I think now I'm more like, like, no, that was fun. That was cool. That was good enough.
That's
you
great.
know, or like literally like, yeah, have the 2 or 3 beers with your buddies after a ride or something like that, and it's like that's it. And that definitely was not a perspective that I had before. And I don't know if I think some of it is like what we were talking about earlier, where it's just like I really started getting to, like, as I was being more active, it'd be like, dude, I don't want to like tie one on tonight because tomorrow I want to ride that like 3,000-foot climb.
Yeah.
And if I have 6 big old IPAs, like maybe or more, maybe that's not going to be a good ride tomorrow, And so it's like, yeah, I'm gonna call it. And yeah,
But you've done it like
some people like it's tough with this shit too, like you said, because like real quick people are like, oh, you're a fucking alcoholic, blah blah blah, and like I don't want to hear it. Shut the fuck up, dude. Do your own life, and like. But on the same note, like with the weight loss, like you were talking about, like that was one of the points that I wanted to make in this last year, where I wanted to be able to like show people, dude, I went out at least one night a week and had a handful of drinks every week of last year. And maybe some weeks I had 2 nights that I had drinks, and but here I am and I still lost this much weight. And that's like one of the things that I really wanted to be able to like show people, that like you can do this without like totally like locking everything down,
erasing everything you enjoy. Yeah. I think that goes
you
along with that consistency. That like finding that line of like, maybe you're not going to drop 60 pounds in 2 months, but you'll drop 60 pounds in a year, maybe, or 2 years. Like, but you're not suffering through the whole time. You're still able to enjoy parts of your life, right? Like, that's living. You're able to live.
And that's the thing that I'm really like learning through this process that I've never learned before. Every time I've ever lost weight, is I've never learned actually how to change my lifestyle. And now I'm learning it's like, yeah, if you want to have 2 cheat meals and 2 nights that you drink with your buddies, like let's just say, a handful of beers, not like I said, like not college drunk, or whatever, but like okay, that's a week that you're not gonna lose any weight, or that's a week that you might even put on a pound. So like you have to know then that next week is like, oh, that's only a 1 cheat night week for sure. Because if you do it again next week, it's going to be another 1 pound, and then you're cracking, you're letting the water back in.
Yeah, you're going down that road. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like so.
But you've taken breaks though, right? Like you've taken like month off or something like that. Like I've never done that. Like that's part of this. That's part of this experiment. Is like I realized that like last year for 2 weeks I didn't drink when I had my health thing, and then I started to get back into my pattern. And I'm like, well, let's just see what this looks like for a minute. I'm not trying to put like rest of my life stamp on it or anything. I just want to see what things look like in the next few months and see where I land, and then I'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think for me, when I was in the military, that happened on purpose or by accident because of like my job. So it was like we would go to the field for 6 weeks, and it's like you can't drink while you're there, right? And it'd be like you'd get back to your unit and you'd be like, damn, dude, I lost like 10 pounds, and like, wow, I feel good. Then you go party for a while, and then it would be like, something else. And it's like when I went to Bosnia, it was like 6 months before you could go on R&R, and then it's like 2 weeks of being a complete alcoholic. But I would always have these like breaks when I was in the military, and then so when I got out, it would always be like I would remember that, and it'd be like, okay, I need to have like a reset every once in a while, where it'd be like, dude, you're starting to like be like here's a good example. Whenever I used to smoke cigarettes, like I got to a point in quitting smoking cigarettes that I was like, oh, I only smoke when I drink. So then I would like walk in the door, and then it would be like, just crack a beer open. So as soon as you could crack a beer open, you'd be like, oh, now I can have a cigarette, so like I would like, when I would notice that same kind of behavior with alcohol, where it was like, oh, well, like I'm just drinking a beer to drink a beer. Like I actually have zero reason to drink a beer, and that's whenever I would like be like, okay, you need to have a reset, dude. And it'd be like at least like 30 days where I'd be like, all right, I'm not drinking for the next month. And it would be interesting to see how your life changes, because you're like, oh wow, I like you're definitely more motivated in the morning, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed stuff like that already. Like my head seems clearer. My gut feels a little better. The mornings are easier. But dude, like I will be honest with you, like 6, 7 o'clock comes, I do want a beer right now, but like, I have to think through it. You know, obviously the autopilot is like, let's go out for a beer, but like, well, you're going to let yourself down. You're going to feel like guilty about it tomorrow, because I've already decided this. So it's like, I'm cheating myself now. Once I let myself out of this little box I'm in, then I'll be okay with it. But right now I have something to prove to myself, and I want to see what happens. So I keep having to like have that conversation, not every day, but every once in a while, especially on the weekends, because my wife's home. We like to go out to restaurants and eat. So have drinks. So it's definitely like still early stages. But one interesting thing is that like, I remember you were just mentioning something about like changing your lifestyle. So this past year, I was like drinking at home too much. So I was like, all right, from now on, I'm not going to have drinks in the house. So in order for me to have a drink, I need to go out. So that worked for like a month or two. But what ended up happening is that I would always find an excuse to go to the bar. It's because that's the only way I'm going to go out for drinks now. So all of a sudden, I'm like, Heather, let's go get some wings. You know, I want wings. Yeah. But really, I want wings in 5 beers. So it was like, dude, I was like, you know, lying to myself constantly, but like not really. Like I knew what I was doing. So that became normal. And all of a sudden, I'm spending an insane amount of money on food and beers, because IPAs are what we like. So IPAs are already super expensive at the store. Going to the bar, they're like $10, $11 now. So you have a couple of those in food, you're at like $80 for like a 2 hours out on a Tuesday. Yeah, it's like ridiculous. So I'm kind of looking forward to that aspect of like saving a little bit more money, because looking back, it's like you don't plan on it, because I wouldn't plan on going out every night, but things happen, and all of a sudden you know life happens, and we're out doing this thing again. And then at the end of the week, you're like, dude, that was like $500 with food and drinks this week. Like, what? It's crazy.
I've never been really like I want to have a beer like relaxation kind of thought process. So I think that part for me is pretty easy, because normally it's either I'm like, for me, it's all like occasion based kind of things.
Yeah.
And then it would be like what I was saying earlier. It's just like, I wouldn't want to like just have 3 beers. It's like, I'm going to party. Like you said earlier, it's like, we're either partying or we're not, you know?
Yeah. So, in or out. Yeah. It's kind of like
for me, like what would happen is like the party just turns into every day as a party.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what ended up happening, is that like I would wake up, I would drink too much, and then I would wake up and I'd kind of feel like anxiety and a little crappy. So then like I would feel like crap around 4 or 5 o'clock, and then I'm like, a beer would help with that. You know, so then I'm like, all right, let's do that again. And it's like, oh dude, like can't you do that's like 3 nights in a row or something like that. But like I decided to do this little experiment like a week before New Year's. So I told myself, and I told Heather, I'm like, I'm doing it this week. Like, so I basically was like, I just went out, like, even if she didn't come out with me, I went out. And my idea, I did have a little plan in this. I wanted to get so grossed out by myself by New Year's Eve that I was like, I don't want to do that for a while. Like I would be like, I'm just the taste of it. Like I partied through the whole week. Not like binge style. I didn't wake up drinking or anything, but every night I would go and have some beers or whatever. So after like a week of that, I woke up on New Year's Day and I was just like, ugh. So my last impression of it is kind of gross. So that's kind of a nice little reminder, I guess. Like that was my last impression of it, but we'll see how long it goes.
Yeah. I think, you should probably come up with some sort of date that you need to make a decision on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're putting yourself in a position where you're going to feel negatively about it whenever that day comes that you decide to try, if you decide to try.
Yeah.
So like if it's in 2 months and you decide like, today I'm going to have a beer, you're going to feel like shit, because you're like, oh man, I told myself I wasn't gonna, but now I talked myself into it. Like, but if you give yourself like a check-in you know, where you're like, okay, well, I at least want to make it to March 1st. And like, maybe I decide that I'm going to have drinks on St. Patty's Day, but that's it. But I'm going to reevaluate what it is.
Yeah.
So that like, because I feel like you're setting yourself possibly up for like
an
emotional failure. You know
like,
what I mean?
I want to feel like I got to a plateau or like to a peak and then reevaluate, instead of like one day having like the door open a little bit and I just start drinking again and I'm like, well, shit, like, you know, this was like you giving in rather than getting to that point. Yeah, I get that. That's good. That's smart.
Yeah. And then and like, I don't know, at least for me, it's like, it's good to like in my mind, I'm doing it all like mostly around like weight loss kind of stuff. But for me, it's like, okay, well, like, it's reasonable to have drinks once a week.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do it once a week. And like, and maybe this week goes by and there wasn't actually a situation that came up that I felt like I wanted to have beers. So maybe a week goes by and I don't.
Yeah.
But like, I had that ability, like, hey, if somebody asked me to like go watch this football game, I can go watch this football game and have some wings and a beer, and I'm not going to feel like I fucked up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting the way I'm totally in a different mind state than I used to be. Like, even last year when I took 2 weeks off, I remember being in that 2 weeks and being like, I wanted to get to the end of the 2 weeks because I wanted a beer. And I was like, let's go, let's get there. But instead, now I feel more like it's not a race to get to a point. When I get there, I'm going to decide if I even want to have another beer again. So it's definitely a different mentality. And I think that's been helpful, is like, I'm not in a race to get back to the beer. I'm just in a place where I don't know even if that'll come back, but that's okay. You know, it's still different. But dude, I mean, I'm an IPA guy. I do miss like even the taste, like as shitty as it is to some people, like it's that acquired taste where it's just like that bitterness. I liked it, you know? So I haven't tried any non-alcoholic beers. Some people swear by them. I don't know. I've never tasted one. Have you ever done that?
I haven't, but I know, like, I have a bunch of friends that, because of the lifestyle that I've lived, I've definitely had a lot of friends that were alcoholics and that did definitely have like problems with alcohol on a level that like you could be like, yeah, dude, you got issues, and they quit. And those people that have decided to try the non-alcoholic options have told me that like nowadays that there's some really good options out there. I don't try them because it's like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So
well, that's kind
I'm really like the mindset of like either have it or don't, you know what I mean? So but I think if the taste was like purely the thing, I think that there's really some good options out there now. But like to me, I'm like in my mind, I just look at everything like very calorically. So I'm like, oh, well, I could have this if I had this one beer that's 300 calories, or I could like go to Jamba Juice and have a Jamba Juice instead. So I'm just going to drink water. You know, like
it's kind of like when people talk about mocktails. Like, I don't drink a Manhattan because I like the taste. I get through the taste because I like the buzz that comes along with it. Like, I'm not going to pay $20 for that taste with no alcohol in it. So I get that. But, you know, like sometimes mixed drinks are just gross. So
but I mean, if you're into the taste of beer and you like, and I think there's definitely some like mental association with food and like taste, like go to McDonald's sometimes and drink a Pepsi instead of a Coke. Like, it doesn't fucking make any sense. Like, you're like, this doesn't taste right, you know? And it's like, when I have wings, I really like to have beer. And if I get to a point where I didn't want to drink anymore, like maybe I would then at that point be like, you know what? It's just like this, like they go good together, you know? And that taste is what you're looking for. And I can relate with that. So try it. Give it a shot.
I'm still so new to this. Like, I'm still experimenting a little bit with it, I guess, like trying to find my groove. Kind of like what we did when we're on our weight loss journey. Like, I want to find like a consistency in this lifestyle, because Xing out of something that I did enjoy and was part of my routine is a little bit different, because a lot of it was like getting out of the house was going to get a beer and some food with the wife, or just on my own sometimes, like happy hour, let's go get a snack with the dog. So I have to try and fill these little gaps so I don't get completely bored, like time crunches or whatever. So I'm still working on it. I'll figure it out. It's just like every week it gets a little bit more clear, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it could be fun though, trying to find a non-alcoholic beer that you like though too, because it'd be like, oh, it's like just like finding the IPAs that you love. It'd be like the same situation. Like you went to this restaurant and they have this lager that's really good, or this other restaurant that had this, non-alcoholic sour or something,
Yeah, that's true. Like I had certain places around here that I like Space Dust. So I found certain spots that I would know, like they have it on draft and stuff. Yeah. There was like, and I'm a wing guy. I know you are too. So Space Dust and a really good pile of wings. That's like my favorite thing.
Yeah.
It's nothing
bad. Yeah. So are you coming up this way are you doing the Downeyville or something?
I haven't talked to them, but I didn't do it last year. So I'd like to do it this year. So around spring is when I usually start talking to them. I'd like to. It was awesome going up there with the group. I'm glad you came out with Joe too. So I would love to do that again. If I do, I'll let you know way before.
Yeah.
But that would be fun to do.
You should definitely, or if you want to come up and ride some fun stuff even in the wintertime, you just feel like you want to get away for a weekend, man.
Yeah, that'd be great. Are you out there? What's the weather up there now? You're not like cold or anything, right? You're normal.
It'll be like maybe it's like low 40s or high 30s in the morning where we would ride, but by the afternoon it's like 50 or 60, so it's like
that's not bad.
Not bad at all.
That's similar to here. Today was crazy though. It was like 80 something here today. It was ridiculous.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and yesterday was like 50. So weird.
Yeah, California's strange, man. The weather out here. I accidentally this area that I was going to ride, I asked the digital assistant on the wall that we will not name. I asked her what the temperature was there, and somehow she misheard me and gave me the temperature for some place in Pennsylvania, right? And it was like 34 degrees with a high of 37. And I was like, oh, wow, that sucks. So then I said the name of the place again out here, and it just so happened to be that it was 34 degrees here at that spot, but with a high of like 50.
Yeah, it's a little different.
And I was like, wow, they get a 3-degree spread and we get like a 20-degree spread. Like,
it's like two different seasons, night and day here. It's crazy.
Yeah. So
I'd like to go. I haven't ridden Santa Cruz in a few years either, so I'd like to maybe hit that too. Yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna start planning some stuff soon. I don't know if I told you I got like Mazda's gonna come on board again for a year and hook me up again for one more year. But my contract ended in December, so they took away my car, and their fiscal year starts in April. So I had to buy like a truck or whatever for that time period, and then I'm gonna get another one. So I got like a Buick Rainier, like from like 2007. It runs great, so it's just gonna be like my secondary vehicle. It's kind of fun, like going from I went from like a brand new Mazda into this old school kind of vibe at the room. You started up old school. It's like it's kind of like a good refreshing feeling to get back to it for a minute, because I had like a RAV4 from 2006 like for a decade. I kind of missed it, so it's kind of fun.
Right on, man. Yeah, are you doing Sea Otter?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah.
So Sea Otter's a weird one for me. I met you there. When I met you there, I was there for work, and maybe I'm crazy, but I had this like connotation.
We met there. I do not remember that.
I think we did. I think that's the first time I met you in person. I like bombarded you, and we went out. You invited me out to drinks later or to dinner. And
that sounds like something I would do. I mean,
yeah. And then you invited me back to your house, but it was like too late, and I was like, I gotta get up early tomorrow because I was there for Etnies or something. I had actually do work. So now when I think about going up there, I'm like, oh, it's like going to work. I know it's not, but it's not as fun as like Sedona, I guess.
Yeah.
Are you going to Sedona?
I was just saying, because man, somebody else asked me that yesterday, and I'm still on the fence, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I every year say I'm not going, and every year I end up going. I mean, I actually made a video about it last year,
Yeah.
And but this last summer we went up to Whistler, and also on that trip we went to Squamish and Bellingham, and you only have so much money to spend on traveling every year. And it really made me realize, like, man, there's so many other places that I would really like to go. And so I'm contemplating over like going somewhere else instead.
I don't blame you. I actually started thinking about that too, because I live in a part of the country where I keep going to the same things now. They used to feel new, and now I'm like going back to the same things.
Yeah.
And like that Whistler trip, when I went to Whistler, it felt like I was really somewhere different. Like everything felt different. So that was kind of cool. I'm curious, what did you think? What did you think of the Squamish Whistler thing? I actually think I had more fun riding the trails in Squamish sometime. I had like a day.
Everybody in my group liked Squamish more than Whistler.
Yeah.
So I agree. I totally agree. I had so much fun. I'm also not a park guy. I know you ride more park than I do, but I really, really enjoyed Squamish. But on the other end, it's not like Squamish and Whistler are the only trails in that area.
Yeah.
Like the whole area is just littered with amazing riding. And like when I was in Bellingham was freaking crazy. And like I only rode like a fraction of the legit trails, let alone the yet to be sanctioned trails. You know what I mean? And it's like so it's definitely I'm questioning it, but man, Sedona's the one that gives me FOMO more than anything.
Yeah. I know,
like I could not go to Sea Otter, no problem. I could not go back to Bentonville. It wouldn't bother me. But like, everybody goes to Sedona. Like, especially like a lot of us creators are out here on the West Coast. Sedona is like such a good time, and it's just like, man, it's just really fun. But it's like you said, at this point, I've been so many times. It's not like I go back and like wowed by some new riding experience. Like it's like usually like maybe one day we do something new, and all the other days is just like trying to do as many of the rides that you enjoyed before again. You know?
Yeah. I think Sedona for me now is the same way. I would think of it as like prioritizing hanging out. I've just ridden Sedona so many times. It doesn't have that newness anymore. It's great. It's fantastic. It just doesn't have the same feeling for me anymore. It would be more about the vibe and hanging out and seeing everybody, and
it's much closer for you too. So I'd have even more of a hard time like, saying no.
It's like an 8-hour drive, and it's not such it's just through the desert. So it's not so bad either. So, and then like, I used to do the thing where I'd stop in Phoenix first, get a day in there at South Mountain, and then go up. So that route's pretty cool. I don't think I haven't been in a couple of years though. I kind of got that feeling too, where I was like, I needed a break. Just felt too routine. So we'll see if I go this year. I don't know. I haven't done Bentonville yet though.
It was fun, dude. I think if you haven't gone, I think you should definitely go. I would say, if at all possible, I would go with somebody else that likes to ride. I feel like that place would be more fun with friends. Like I rode with people while I was there, but definitely spent a lot of time like kind of exploring, which I think as a content creator, that was probably good though too, because then I could just like dick around with camera angles and doing things over again and not really feel like I'm impeding somebody. But that place was really fun. So like it was definitely not how would I best explain it? It's a very Blue Trail experience. And anything that looks like harder than Blue that you've seen, those are the only things that are harder than Blue there.
Like Dropper, the big drop.
Yeah. Like and even like on my Whistler video, for example, I had made a comment that like people say, oh, Whistler Blues are like other places blacks, and somebody in the comments was like, I've never heard that before.
I have.
And the first thing I thought of was, I have 100 fucking times. But I was like, there was a trail on one of the networks there in Bentonville that had, I want to say it might even had a double diamond on it, and it was like, and I remember being like, I don't want to get hurt or whatever, and I'm not gonna mess with it. And one of my friends was like, dude, you're fine. And then I wrote it and I was like, this is barely a black,
And double black at Whistler, I would not touch.
I did some double blacks while I was there. So I think you're a good rider, man. I think you'll probably be surprised. They do like, I don't know if you knew, did you see that like matrix that they have of all the trails like in order?
No. What do you mean?
So if you go again, they have a list of every trail, like whether it's tech or jump, of its level of difficulty in a row. So like even the single diamonds is like, if you did this one, you could go to this one and it'll be just a little bit harder. And
I do remember that. It was like a poster sign or like a like a bulletin.
Yeah,
thing.
I just had it on my phone. So we would look at it and be like, okay, well, we did this double black diamond. I'm not doing that one. It's at the top of the list, but this one's like only 2 up from that one that we did. So
I guess I might have done one without even knowing it, because I think there's different, like there, I will say, like there, I got there the first day. I was very intimidated.
So was I.
I totally felt like that feeling of like, I've watched so many Whistler videos, so things got dumbed down in my head. Like, I'll do that, I'll be able to do that. And then I got there and I totally felt like this is different. The reality of it set in. And it took me like a day to adjust that mindset. I started trying new stuff, but like, I definitely felt like the GoPro effect, because before you go to Whistler, you just watch it. You watch the videos. You've seen it for years, so you have this expectation. It's just like one of those things where I did feel intimidated going there, but in Squamish, I didn't do any of the gnarly slabs and stuff. I kind of just stuck to the other side, because I was kind of there solo a little bit. So I did like some of the flowy stuff in Squamish, and I did the flowy stuff mixed in with some like easier slabs. Did you hit any of the like the in and out trails or anything like that?
The day we were trying to get to in and out, we spent so much time on the trail getting there that the people that were waiting for us, like, we had to get back. So I didn't get to do in and out. I really would like to though. And like we did another trail called N Trails. I think it was like on the way there. It was also like a bunch of like rock rolls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was definitely like, it's very interesting being a mountain bike content creator and being very familiar with the GoPro effect, but still taking things for granted whenever you get there and you're like, oh fuck, man, this is like way harder than what it looked like on that video.
Totally. And especially being from someone that, for me, and probably for you, not used to riding like big slabs. So it's a different style riding.
And we ride there's a lot of rock rolls up here that we ride.
Okay.
So
yeah. And then like, also you're not a local, so it's just your first time being thrown into something like that. Like if you're a local, you have the privilege or the luxury of like gradually checking stuff out. Like eyeing it up, like strategizing. We're going there just like all in, like no holds, no plan, just like there it is, so there's definitely a mentality different. Like even stuff I do here in SoCal, like the conditions warrant like a whole level of like experience in itself. And then you add in like the feature. And if I wasn't from here, I wouldn't touch some of this stuff, but just because I'm familiar with the terrain, it's not as scary as it used to be,
I think the thing that a lot of people struggle with when they come to California is like how loose and dry our stuff is.
Yeah.
So they'll be like, dude, I don't know how you're riding that. And it's like, you get used to it. You're like, because even in the spring, whenever our dirt's good, it's like you get used to that grip for a little bit. Every year there's like a 2-week period when it dries out that I'm like all ate up again for a minute. And then it'll be like, oh yeah, you start to remember, and then you're like, you get back to riding that way. But people that come from places where they have good grip, they're like, dude, that's nuts, man. You have zero grip. Like, how are you doing that?
Yeah, it's weird. Like even the chutes here, they're so dusted, you have to like straight down it, and then at the bottom turn, you can't like maneuver at all in between because you're just dirt surfing the whole way down. It's crazy down here. I don't know if it's like that up there right now, but we haven't had rain in like 7-8 months. So we have had no rain in the wintertime, hence the fires. But like even the trails, usually winter right now, we'd have that like hero dirt moisture tackiness, and it's still like worse than summer right now. It's pretty crazy. It's the first year I've been here that this deep into the winter, the trails are like this. It's different. Yeah.
I was blown away whenever I heard that like Palisades fire was even happening. I was like, what's going on? It's like winter. We don't have fires in winter.
I know.
Like, this is like a summer thing,
Totally. Yeah. They're usually November, September, October zone, never this late.
We've been getting some rain up here, but definitely it's a lot lighter this year than it is normally because like last year, for example, I was whiffing a lot, and I'm doing that because it's raining, right? And this year I whiffed like during December, and since like right around Christmas, I don't think if it's rained, it's been like so short that it didn't really affect what my schedule was,
Yeah.
So I like, even the other day, I was like, man, do I need to keep paying for Zwift? Like, is it just going to be like so intermittent this year that it's not going to matter? But
yeah. How much is it?
I don't know. I don't even remember. It's
Like
probably like $15 a month or something
that's not
like
bad.
that.
It's like a Netflix
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah. I usually cancel it in the spring though, because like once it gets nice out, that I won't use it. I just won't. I will not ride that trainer unless I have to ride that trainer. You know what I mean? So
it's like going to the gym or something, right? It's like,
I mean, you can get some freaking unbelievable, like using their training plans. That's what I do. I don't ride it for like the normal rides, but using their training plans, like you will level up 100%. You will level up. And so I like doing it for that, because then I come into the spring riding and I'm like, hit the ground running. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, I'm like smashing shit and I'm like, right on, this is good. But on the other hand, like I would rather do a mediocre ride outside than a freaking awesome ride on the trainer. You know what I mean? Like,
totally same.
I just like being out there. So I got a buddy that like, I don't understand it. He'll be like, yeah, I didn't feel like going. It's going to take too much time to drive over there. So I did like 50 miles on this trainer. And I'm like, dude, you're high, dude. I would not like.
I need that outdoorsiness, that like wind or the nature noises. That does something for me mentally. Yeah. Like that's
but the training plans are so tough that like you're just trying to stay alive. So it's
really, they're that tough.
It gives you some things to like focus on other than like you're not just sitting there spinning, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the let's just call it the video game-esque part of it gives you a little like visual stimulation too. You're like, oh, there's a dinosaur over there. Okay. Yeah. It's interesting, man. Dude, 2 hours just like that. So easy, man. It's always fun, man. It's always fun catching up, dude. We should plan a trip together, man. That's what we should do.
I'm down, man.
Like an anti-Sedona trip, man. Let's figure out a place.
Let's brainstorm over the next week or two. Let's brainstorm some ideas.
Where's the place that you haven't ridden that you keep thinking about riding?
Man, like, are we talking like West Coast? I would say,
like, whatever comes to mind.
I've never done Mount Shasta area or anything like that. Have you gone there?
I haven't been to Shasta, so that would definitely be a summertime for sure.
Yeah,
I have you done the whole enchilada? Have you done that?
No, I haven't been to Moab yet.
That's the one, cool. Man. That's the one. That's what we need to do. I keep talking about going there, and I keep not doing it. That's what I think we should plan it.
Okay, we're talking. That's like what spring or fall, because it's really hot there in the summer, right?
Yeah, so it could fall in well of like skipping Sedona, because it will be like, oh, you missed Sedona, but you have this other thing in 3 weeks, so you feel like it's not.
Yeah, trade off.
Yeah, let's be real, dude. We're going to Sedona,
but we don't have to accept it yet. So we'll play this.
No, we don't. No, we don't. Definitely don't, man. Hey, dude, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and hang out and talk. Any of you guys that are listening that maybe haven't checked out Tony's channel, go over and check out the Outsider MTB. The link is down in show more or the description. You know, does it say show more still? I think they changed the wordage. I think it just says more now.
Oh, I think it does. I never noticed it, but I think you're right. Now that I think about it. Yeah.
I was thinking about it the other day and I was like, I keep saying show more, and I just need to start saying in the description.
Yeah, I think on all the social medias now it just says more. Like you just click it, like even Instagram opens up or something.
Yeah. So down below, wherever the information is about the episode that you're watching, click that, and there's a link to his channel there. There's also a link to that e-bike fundraiser that I was talking about at the beginning. Honestly, I'm gonna make a video here soon about how this nonprofit saves lives. So if you're thinking about maybe, man, I'd like to buy Robert a beer, and Robert's not drinking, or Tony a beer and Tony's not drinking, you could swing by that fundraiser and give them $5, and maybe somebody will be riding an e-bike for the first time because of that.
There you go. That's great. Robert, thank you. Thanks for the invite. We got to do this again, not wait 2 years.
Right? I don't know how that happened.
Dude, it doesn't seem that long ago. Time is flying by. We're getting older. That's why.
It's crazy, man. Anyways, all you guys out there, remember one thing. It only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one.